Hello everybody and welcome to Quirky Deck Techs, a show where I show y'all all of my quirky decks. Today we have Superheavy Samurai Karakuri, except with more than 3 Karakuri monsters, because that's kinda dumb. So, time for the card by card. We have Superheavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi, our main combo starter for the deck. If I have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can place one Super Heavy Samurai Pendulum monster from your deck, except itself, in your other Pendulum zone. Then you can special summon him. And when it's a monster, if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can discard one monster to special summon one Super Heavy Samurai monster from your hand or deck in defense position. And you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Super Heavy Samurai monsters. And if it's used as synchro material and put in your extra deck face up, you can place it back in your Pendulum zone. Perfect for a pendulum summon later in the turn. Then you have Motorbike, which if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, spoiler alert, we aren't playing any, you can discard him to add any Super Samurai from your deck to your hand. He's basically a Stratos for the deck. He can also increase the level of another machine monster you control by 2, but that rarely comes up, but it might, corner cases. Then we have Soul Gaia. He can equip himself to another Super Heavy Samurai monster, and when he is equipped to a monster, it's treated as a tuner. And if you don't have any spell or traps in your graveyard, and he was equipped to a monster, you can special summon him from equipping it. Then we have Soulbang Cannon, which it's like Soul Gaia, where you can equip it to Super Heavy Samurai monsters. But when it's equipped, the Super Heavy Samurai monster gains 1,000 defense, and during either player's battle phase, when your opponent activates a card effect while you control a defense position Super Heavy Samurai, you can banish it from the graveyard to negate the activation and destroy it. Then afterwards, you board wipe, and then if you do, both players take 1,000 damage. Then we have Scales, a great extender for the deck. Scales. If your opponent controls 2 or more monsters and you control none, you can special summon him from your hand. And if he's normal or special, you can target a level 4 or lower Super Heavy Samurai from the grave and special summon it in defense position. Then we have Stealthy. If you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can special summon it from your hand. And if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can tribute it to target one spell or trap in your opponent's graveyard, set it to your field, but banish it when it leaves the field. This is great going first to steal your opponent's imperm after they imperm one of your monsters. Then we have one Big Benkei for Monk Big Benkei. And then we have Super Heavy Samurai Soul Piercer. Like the other 2 soul monsters, it can equip itself to another Super Heavy Samurai monster. And when it's fucking hell. There. And if you do, that monster inflicts piercing. But its main effect that's used is, if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add any Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand except itself. Then we have Monk Big Benkei, which is what you're usually going to place in your Pendulum Zone using Wakaushi. And what it does is, if you control a Super Heavy Samurai monster, you can add one Super Heavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. And when it's in the Monster Zone, if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can send a Big Benkei from your hand or deck to your graveyard. And if you do, you can special summon this card from your hand. And it has the same effect as Wakaushi, where if it's used as synchro material and put in your extra deck, you can put it back in your Pendulum Zone. Then we have Wagon, which, if it's normal or special, you can change its battle position. And it can attack while in defense position and uses its defense for damage calculation. And if you have no spell or traps in your graveyard, you can change it from defense to attack position and add a soul monster from your deck to your hand. Then for the Karakuris, we have Inashichi, the best normal summon in the deck, because when it's normal summoned, you can add any Karakuri card from your deck to your hand. Then we have Ninishi, which can give you an extra normal for Karakuri monsters. Nishipachi, which when normal or special, changes the battle position of any monster on the field. Kunamzan, which is okay. I usually don't use its effect, but I use it normally as just a level 5 non-tuner. But you can use it, because when it's in your hand, you can target a Karakuri, change its battle position, special summon Kumanzan from your hand, and if you do, it's treated as a tuner for the turn. but you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Earth Machines. It locks you into Earth Machines, which is why I don't really use it. I just use it as a level 5 non-tuner for like specific synchro plays. Then we have Hiro Kunishi, which is just a level 1 tuner, and Saizon, which is a level 4 tuner. Then for the generic Earth Machine stuff, we have 3 Anchor Drill, just as extra bodies when it's normaled or specialed. Tunneler, because it's a Pot of Avarice in Archetype, which is crazy. And Ancient Gear Box, because if we can link into Ancient Gear Ballista, we grab Box and then we grab a bunch of things from the deck. Then for our hand trap lineup, we have 2 DD Crow for the Snake Eye matchup. 3 Effect Veiler, it's just good, and it's better than Ash in the Snake Eye matchup because they could use your Ash to make Hida and extend it further with your Ash. So you don't really want to use Ash in that matchup. And then we have Wing Dragon Raw Spear mode, just as a going second board breaker. Then, in the extra, we have Ancient Fairy Dragon, just in case we need more bodies on the field. Baron, probably best Synchro Boss monster ever. Formula Synchron, in specific cases where if you have the Toad and Stealthy on your field, you can sync into this, draw a card, and then quick sync on your opponent's turn for some bullshit into like Baron. Then we have 1 Bure, 2 Bure Do, and 1 Bure Boo. This is the Karakuri Synchro package. Bure, what all of them do is that every single one of them special summons a Karakuri monster from your deck when they're summoned, and each of them have a unique effect other than that. Bure can change its monster's battle position. Bure Do, when once per turn, when a Karakuri monster has its battle position changed, you draw a card. And Bure Boo, when a Karakuri monster's battle position is changed, banishes a monster on the field. Or 1 card your opponent controls. Then we have Nat Beast. It's Nat Beast. It's insane. Then for the Xyz, we have Abyss Dweller. Kinda shuts down Snake Eye and all graveyard-based matchups. Infinitrack Earth Slicer. This I specifically have because Anchor Drill Summon Tunneler can work to bring this out. Or like Anchor Drill plus Kunamazan. And then I have Hope Harbinger, main part of the end board by overlaying 2 Burritos. Then for the links, we have Ballista to grab Box, to grab anything. Appaloosa, because it's Appaloosa. It's like up to 4 negates. It's crazy. IP to get into the Appaloosa on your opponent's turn. And Relinquished Anima specifically for those grindy games where you could use Toad or Stealthy to make Anima and equip one of your opponent's monsters to it. Crazy card. So, that's the deck profile. Now I'll show you some combos. Now time for the deck's combos. To start, I'm just going to show you guys the basic 1-card combo of this deck. But one of the deck's biggest strengths is how flexible it is, depending on matchups and the hand you get. So, this is just the most basic line. This deck is very complex. So to start, we activate Wakaushi. Then we use Wakaushi's effect to special summon itself and place Monk Big Ben K into this, activate Monk Big Ben K into the Pendulum Zone. Then we use Monk Big Ben K's effect to grab Soul Gaia Booster from the deck. Then we equip Wakaushi with Soul Gaia Booster, and then use Soul Gaia Booster's effect to special summon itself. Then you Synchro Summon with them to make Burrito. Then Chainlink 1 Burrito, Chainlink 2 Wakaushi. Wakaushi's effect puts him back in the Pendulum Zone, and Burrito can special summon any Karakuri. And here, it depends on what you want to do, but for the most basic line, I will grab Nishipachi. The Nishipachi on summon puts itself to put anything to defense, but I would put itself. Barredo draws a card. That card doesn't matter. Link off Barredo and Nishipachi for Ancient Gear Ballista. Ancient Gear Ballista's effect activates. You will grab from deck Ancient Gear Box, then use Ancient Gear Box's effect when added from deck to hand to add an Infinite Track Anchor Drill from deck to hand. Then you pen summon 2 Anchor Drill and Box. Now, here is where you can really divulge the lines based on what you're going up against. You could either overlay them into an Abyss Dweller, if you're going against something like Snake Eye that relies on the graveyard heavily. If you're playing against a deck that runs a lot of spells or that needs to use power spells a lot, you can overlay them into Hope Harbinger. Or if you don't really know, you're going like game 1, you don't really know the matchup, you could just make a 3-mat Appaloosa. There's a lot of variance to this deck, and that was just the basic 1-card combo. This deck becomes a lot stronger depending on how many extenders you have in your hand, and keep in mind, this combo did not use your normal summon. Now it's time for the deck's pros and cons. For the pros, it can make Nat Beast. Nat Beast is such a strong card that just being able to make it turn 1 gives you an insanely favorable matchup comparatively to other decks up against Snake Eye, which is the best deck right now. Pro number 2, it has a multitude of ways to get into its 1-card combo using Wakaushi, and it has a multitude of extenders, so it can play through multiple hand traps. It can play through hate extremely well. Number 3, it can make cards like a 3 or 4-mat Appaloosa or an IP reliably to be able to do a bunch of negates. It can put up like 4 or 5 negate boards turn 1. And now the cons. Floodgates kind of ruined this deck going second, and the deck doesn't really have much play going second either outside of regularly known hand traps and board breakers like Sphere Mode. And another con of the deck is that you kind of get bricked up on monsters, and there's a lot of bricks like Big Benkei, Wagon, and a bunch of the one of Karakuris. But overall, this is a mostly extremely consistent combo deck that can make up to 4 or 5 negate boards with Abyss Dweller and a Nat Beast that has a really good matchup against Snake Eye and Snake Eye Fire King. So I say, this deck is approved.